The amount of work that's necessary for the coaches is pretty crazy.
We got also people saying it could be Hiko, right? And this is actually kind of interesting in my eyes, considering Hiko's experience.
And I think that's the mistake a lot of teams make, is they just do things in scrims. They don't actually practice with goals. They don't actually practice with something in mind. They just, let's make this play. Let's do this. Let's do X. Let's,
It was so strong. It was so strong. It was so good.
Yeah, you can give the camera a gun.
The flap. You know when he does that kind of stuff? Can you do that one?
Oh no, I couldn't do that. I don't think my tongue works that way.
I just wanted him to say a voice like that. We're starting with a man who's nearly as old as you are. Sean Garris actually left for Heart of Thieves. And this brings us to the point, listen, I know, but to be honest, right? He was such a key component to the team, making them grow. A man with so much experience, Vansilli. It is actually kind of sad to see him leave.
I mean, look at this picture. This was a picture that was taken when he was like 30 days into the team. He's already growing so old. Look at all the wrinkles on his face, But no, I totally respect that gesture. It's super, super sad to see as well, because Sean Garris, as you mentioned here, Zescht, has been a key component, but also like just a staple as an IGL/coach in a North American scene since his Counter-Strike days. So it's very, very sad to see him go. It seems as though it's almost unfinished business at the same time, because you saw such a nice flash in the pan of 100 Thieves going into Champions, and then now, unfortunately, you lose your head coach, and then are you going to put asterisks on every time they don't make it? It's like, oh, what if they still had Sean?
Right, we're going to get to that in a second, because also I'm sure Tanner has a million things to say. But first of all, let's take a look at actually what Sean has to say about it.
This entire season since stage 2, it's been nonstop, right? So since we signed in March, we were building the team. The second the team got built, the contracts were signed, and we had, I think, the open qualifiers in like 3 weeks. So it was just nonstop grinding for 3 weeks, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, right, along the way. I really appreciate all the hard work that the boys put in throughout the time I was on the team. But it's obviously very sad to leave the guys. Built up really strong relationships with everyone on the team, and I think we had a lot of success in such a short amount of time. Everyone's super tight knit. The transition is definitely bittersweet, right? Like, I definitely obviously miss like streaming and creating content for my fans throughout this time, and that was one of the hardest things. That, as well as like I really missed casting and just being involved in the scene more. A lot of the things I used to do, you unfortunately like didn't have the time for that when you're on the like an esports team as a coach.
Right, makes a lot of sense, to be very honest here, Tanner, because when we have to talk about one thing, right? You play consistently, stage after stage. You play LCQ. The kind of stress level on your personal life as well is something surely that isn't the easiest for Sean.
Yeah, he joined at a really weird time, because it was like back to back to back, and it was the grind, right? 100 Thieves were in the trenches, having to win LCQ, and then being shipped all the way out to Istanbul. It's a tough time for somebody who likes to create content, for a family man. But what I will say is that he said, it is at the end of the video, he said, it is very hard to be a part of an esports program as a coach.
Yeah, so...
Hey,
so you're,
hey, he said, he made sure he said, as a coach. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point. Listen, right? This is leaving one big gap that is though left with, in my eyes, Vansilli, just in my eyes, one of the best you can get in A, right? Mike's is the one who then took the role. And I think personally for me, talking about that, I think it feels like this is the right kind of replacement. Getting Sean out, not the easiest, but if there's one guy you can get in that region, it is Mike's.
Agreed, 100%. I mean, Mike's was already in a team as the assistant coach. Now he's able to be promoted into the head coach, just like I was promoted into VALORANTing host. And then hopefully Mike's HD won't get down. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm not quitting the show. This is all fun and games. I actually prefer doing this more. But no, I think it's still pretty fun to have Mike's actually. A big congratulations to Mike's too. I think he's been a key component. I think every time you've had an interview about anybody talking about 100 Thieves, MCE, when he talks about the guard, he's like, and they talk about 100 Thieves, like, don't forget about Mike's HD. Sean Garris says, don't forget about Mike's HD. And for a position as a coach and assistant coach where it's back to back to back, you don't know how many hours goes into making your team, getting your team ready. Because as a player, to a certain point, you just hop into a server and you just play the game. You just try to win the game. But in terms of figuring out that strategy, is a lot between the coaching staff and the IGL on top of that to make all of that work.
The great part is we can actually discuss that a little later. First of all, we have to see a little bit what Mike said exactly about that.
we're very excited about the next person we're signing onto the coaching staff. And it's a familiar face. It's very experienced. So, and he's going to fit in very, very well with our system. And he's going to allow us to kind of continue to develop all of this and give Mike the assistance that he needs.
All right. So listen. Right? We have a man promoted to head coach. So this leaves, obviously, the slot called assistant coach open, Tanner. And let me put it this way. Talking earlier to Ian, and he said, we had a few comments here and there. Who is it going to be? And we're not going to talk yet about what Reddit says who it's going to be. Give me your gut feeling, right? Assistant coach, a very prominent figure. Who do you see there filling that slot?
Yeah, if it somebody very prominent.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the coaches that are kind of now on the market. The first one that comes top of mind,
JDM.
Sure, JDM.
JDM does come top of mind. I don't know if this was on air or off air, but never. I'm not gonna say anything about JDM. And then when we talk about behind closed doors. But the first person that really comes to mind is Raucus, and I think Raucus, like having a chance to chat with him on this show, kind of just proved that he brings a lot to an organization as just a level head, but then also his experience in Valorant as a player, as a coach from Overwatch. What I really hope they do in kind of filling Sean's position, not as head coach because Mike's is now doing that, but Sean as a player with so much experience was one person that I really trusted for 100 Thieves to say, guys, we're not making all of these roster changes. We're going to trust the process, and eventually it's going to work out, right? We're going to put the work in, and this team is going to be our team. And I think they maybe lost that with Sean. So I hope whoever they do bring in also brings that same mentality, because I don't want to see short lives in esports.
Yeah, and I think one maybe coach that currently is still signed but is sleeping on for like a partnership program for me in North America would be EMEA, outside of like the bait of potentially being Sliggy, right? Because in those conversations too, if you ever follow and watch any of Sliggy's watch parties and they're having a conversation of like, hey, that sixth player that could also be like an assistant coach, that could also be an IGL, for example, Cupert, right, being the latest addition over to Cloud9, could be very similar to have like EMEA or Sliggy in that role for 100 Thieves too. And those are also very known and prominent figures in the Valorant scene here in North America. So I'd be happy to see me.
Maybe an import. An import would also be
fuck it. Leaving North America is good
enough
for me.
Hey, listen, right? I mean,
unless it's Sliggy. I guess unless it's Sliggy.
Fair play. Of course, if it's another Anglo-Saxon, it's fine. Either way, right? we got also people saying it could be Hiko, right? And this is actually kind of interesting in my eyes, considering Hiko's experience, his knowledge, and also obviously his capability within the game, Tanner. It seems just saying on paper, it would be a very valuable option. Also that he's obviously already in 100T.
Yeah, so I agree that it's a good option given the credentials that Hiko has. Like you said, already a part of 100 Thieves, no problem. I think Hiko's chilling, man. I think he's kind of done with the competing and all that work that you have to put in to do so. I think if we saw Hiko come back to competition, it would be as a player, right? And kind of chasing that drive in that competition, and probably not a coaching slot. I think right now as a 100 Thieves content creator, he's just happy to kind of be where he's at. So it would be cool though, because that would be a person who kind of like Sean, I think, would say, hey, let's just trust the process, right? We don't have to break it up unless people are literally like physically fighting inside the team house. Let's keep this 5 for as long as we can and make it work. So I think Hiko would be cool, but I'm sure he's just vibing right now.
Give me Shazam. The best of both worlds for Shazam. Because if he's somebody that's always going to be, loving to stream and stuff like that too, and people are giving him shit in terms of like, oh, you're not putting enough time into practicing and playing with the team. Even Shazam, after the whole hiatus that happened between him and Sentinels, was like, oh, I still want to show that I have what it takes. I've taken for granted, and I'm paraphrasing at this point, but it's just like all the shit, the negative comments that came up to it, and he definitely finally took it to heart, and it kind of like buried him, and he had to he wanted to be above all of those comments, and suddenly it just buried him. I think this is just a great opportunity for him to be outside of back on the surfaces again. He could actually stream again, and also he could actually be a great mind into the coaching staff to help a team like 100 Thieves become a champion.
Right? Listen, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. You don't want any imports? Fine, take your North Americans. Either way, this gets us to a different point because we're talking about staff and we're talking about additions, right? The 6th player is also a discussion that we have to have right here, gentlemen. Because so far, the current 5 look wonderful, right? I think we don't really need to debate that this is looking quite decent, to put it that way. We had to swap with Will, Cyro joins, so on and so on. But at this point in time, right, we're moving over to the 6th position over here on the side of Sentinels. And I'm going to tell you one thing right here, that it is sick is making me not sick. That would be the horrible wordplay. I think in this case, it is the most reasonable option to go for at this point in time, Tanner, as it feels like who else from North America with the caliber of Sentinels do you want to pick as your 6th?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like the position of the 6th player is the question that I always think about and what role they're actually filling. I think Sick looked a little bit slower towards the last few times that we saw him play. He had a lot of stuff going on. He was having family issues and some personal stuff happening. So I think rightfully so. I think if Sick is playing like Sick was playing before, that's as strong as a 6th man as you can get, and one of the best roles to do it, right? It's your flex role where Sick can really play anything.
Literally
so when
everything.
It comes down, literally everything. So when somebody is sick, when somebody is ill, fuck, this guy's name sucks. When somebody has to sit out on the team, Sick can fill that slot no matter what it is. So I think it works really well.
That means they could call in Sick.
Yeah, they can call in Sick. Yes, that's enough, guys. God damn it!
Try not to say sick challenge. Impossible. Literally. Absolutely impossible. Actually, it still feels like a good point because when we talk about North American organizations, right, we can move over to Cloud9 doing the same thing, right? And they pick up someone totally different in that sense when we take a look at it, because the man that they pick is not a North American. Talking about the imports, I know you love that one, Vansilli. They obviously pick up Cupid, and just to give you a bit of an idea, right? I personally talked to him and I was like, okay, how is it actually? What are you going to do, right? Because are you always sitting in pracs? Are you sitting in spec slot? What are you going to do? So his words were, I will always be there to assist the team in a sense that I will bring in Fury. I was an IGL myself, right? He was an IGL himself.
Correct.
So I can exactly do that. And also considering that it seems like Cloud9, and I think that's a very logical approach, think the plug-and-play solution of being like, you know what? I'm going to be the one who, in case, stands in, and I know every single thing I need to do on whatever role because I'm in the prac. And it seems like the safest option because nowadays, for me, you don't want to miss on an event and on the opportunity just because one player is just randomly, ill or something.
Yeah. That's why I still think that going back to that comparison of Cupid with Cloud9 or to Sick with Sentinels as that 6th player, it's still a good move outside of like Cupid has the upper hand because of the IGL portion. But Sick, in terms of the flexibility that he has in his agent pool, is going to be really, really good for any type of player within that roster that cannot play for that time. So, echoing the sentiments basically of Tanner. And if you do remember the first strike, the finals when they played, I mean, there was still like 5 maps that were played. He played 5 different agents, right? That we always go back to that storyline. So Sick definitely has what it takes, and I'm glad we're already going into this clip right now because we never get to see the picture on my face when I casted the last time that Sick played for Sentinels against
we
EG
got this.
here.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
We got this. Hey. Listen,
My Joker arc.
What is the wheat field there on their head? Like,
You know what?
Go ahead.
In the moment, it looks actually like while I was wearing it for like 2 months, it looks actually really fucking awesome. But then I look back at it, I think if my face was thinner, it'll look fucking awesome. I'm working on that. So once my face is thin, I'm bringing that hair back, and then I'm back on top, baby.
Who's gonna be the guy, Tanner? Who's gonna tell him?
Yeah.
Chat, tell me that it's a fucking great color.
Who's gonna tell him?
Chat, tell me that it's a great color.
It looked good on you. Hey, you know what? You can have it. You can have it, man. It looked good on you.
Right. I think it feels a bit like a history book that you do, like, oh, people like back then looked that way? It's like, what is that?
Make sure to subscribe to Valoranting because they ask some pretty good questions, so you don't want to miss out on the answers.
It is good that we talked about 6 players. It is good that we talked about an aim. It is good that we talked about one import. But talking about importing knowledge and importing wisdom, I think there is something where we, as the three of us, might not be too great at. And the Asia Pacific region is widespread. It needs a lot of input. It needs experts to talk about. And in my eyes, a lot of things happened in Asia Pacific. So I think we need to get on a man who actually knows significantly better than we do what this is all about in APAC. And as far as I'm concerned, the man's called Paperthin, and he is the wonderful face that is going to guide us through this. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. I mean, Vance, I'm just saying, you don't even have to worry about the hair if you just join me, man.
That's true. That's true. But then where's the color? You're just going to spray paint your head?
You go for the beard. That's what the beard's for.
Yeah, see, I don't have. Yeah, that's where I. That's where I suffer.
Other hair on your body.
Don't give him those ideas. Hey, time out. It's not that time of the day yet. Listen, we didn't go there.
Spaghetti.
I'm jet lagged. Leave me alone.
Not the spaghetti.
Okay. Enough of that. Listen, you got to help us out here, right?
Sure.
PaperX have done a few little changes here and there. Not too big ones, don't get me wrong. But, there has been a player joined that we need a little bit of your insights from, which is obviously Cigarettes, right? A man who's pretty much played every single first-person shooter that I could think of and now joined the team there as well. What can you give us about Cigarettes that seems to be the right addition for PaperX?
Well, I think this is, for lack of a better description, a clout pickup. So I've been kind of pinging some people. This happened like all while I was traveling in America and stuff, so I was a little bit out of the loop. But I was able to kind of shake some trees, get some apples to fall out. And he's a former CS:GO pro from a long time ago. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Zescht, he plays a lot of different games. He did play some competitive Valorant in the Thai VCT qualifiers with an amateur team as a duelist specialist. Nothing to write home about. He wasn't very good. Well, their team wasn't very good. Maybe that's the real truth. But he's a very popular streamer in Thailand. So for PaperX, I think this sort of gives them another piece to their sort of bigger picture puzzle, right? Like he's super popular on stream. He's from Thailand. So it kind of gives them a much broader scope for their fan base more than anything, is what it really looks like. And he can fill in with various roles if absolutely necessary. Again, he was primarily a duelist specialist. So, maybe if Jinger Forsaken or, having an off day or something, he can be there to fill in. But I assume he's mostly here, frankly, just as a clout pickup because I don't know what else to call it.
So is that like Shroud? Is it like Shroud?
But he's, I guess it's kind of like that. Yeah, I guess
he's
that's
better than Shroud.
Okay.
No, he's not better than Shroud, I don't think. But I mean, he might be.
Shroud
I don't know. But
Shroud actually played very well during LCQ. But...
Yes, he did. He played very, very well. And I mean, this guy's a very good player, and you can see that he's got a lot. He brings a lot to the table, and in terms of just the fact that they always play double duelist, right? So it kind of makes sense to have somebody who can fill in if Jinger Forsaken goes down.
Yeah.
I'm sure he can play Chamber if he's a duelist. That's basically everyone can pick that up. So he's a character. He's funny as heck.
I was gonna say,
imagine
walkouts with him and fucking the whole team are going out would be fucking hilarious with Ben Kai too.
So, but yeah, like, what does that look like though? Like a clout pickup. Okay, so in a perfect world, as the sixth man on every weekend that they're playing in, and he's not like playing, maybe he can co-stream, or does he have to be at the venue and just not play, right? Because how much are fans gonna put up with, like, yes, we love this guy, but we really only get to actually meet him, and he's really only part of the team if somebody is not feeling well, or we fly out to the major events where he's also gonna be there, right? So it's like, how much do you think they can really get from clout like that, I guess is my kind of thought behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a brand building thing. I think PaperX is really trying to spread their reach throughout all of Southeast Asia, right? I mean, they've got players from Singapore, Indonesia, all over the Southeast Asia area. So they add Thailand to this, and that's kind of like a final piece of a puzzle for this really regional team. He's supposedly got a great personality, seems like a fun guy, can keep spirits high. He's got a ton of experience. He's a veteran in terms of esports. So I think at the very least he can be a reliable sub, and also, a guy who in the background can, keep things kind of together, maybe offer some good opinions here and there, with some pseudo coaching, I suppose. But we'll see how it all shakes out. I mean, it's hard to imagine him getting any reliable playing time, though.
Right, and this brings us to a different point, stepping away from PaperX, right? There's been a quite decent announcement today when we talk about new orgs entering, or not necessarily new orgs entering, but bigger orgs coming in, and that is Talon, right? They have made this announcement of bringing in a little bit of a Xerxia core here and there, then having X10 players coming back together. Can you give me your thoughts on that roster? Because most importantly, right, Paperthin is back as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty insane. Dohun, Dohun, I think he's the COO of Talon, just posted a picture with Paperthin, and I mean, this is, it'll be a reliable team, but the kind of the scuttlebutt I'm getting behind the scenes is that nobody really feels like they're going to be able to compete with DRX out the gate. In APAC, like other than maybe PaperX, but even PaperX, if you look back at their matches, they can't beat DRX. Or never have. They actually stopped scrimming DRX because they kept getting beat by them. So there's this kind of theory that I think for a lot of these orgs, this is a time to build your brand. This is a time to build your infrastructure, build your coaching staff, find the processes that work behind the scenes. Because frankly, you're gonna have a tough time beating DRX. Let's just be honest. I mean, you saw what they did at Champs this year, and they're just going to be just as good, if not better, coming into next year, most likely. So it's a fun team. I'm a big fan of some of the old Xerxia guys. There's a lot of personality there, of course, with Paperthin. For me, this is sort of a holding pattern for Talon, so to speak, especially since they're new to the Valorant scene. I think they really want to kind of get their feet underneath them first before they start making big swings.
Isn't there an issue with the whole thing with me with Paperthin though is the whole wrist thing, right? Because like the doctor is saying that his playing career is only going to be like 1 or 2 years or whatnot, and then he decided to leave Valorant to go chase the bag over in Overwatch League, but now the opportunity is back to chase the bag in Valorant. Probably looks like he loves the game Valorant a lot more than Overwatch if he's going back to the game. But if you're still going to follow the actual facts that his playing career might not be that long, how sustainable is this going to be as Paperthin with a potential wrist injury? Is that going to elevate Talon Esports to be able to do that well in the East Asia partnership program?
Yeah, I mean, I have my doubts. I'm kind of with you on this, Vansilli, where I'm pretty skeptical of the whole thing. I mean, for the wrist injury thing, I'm kind of curious. Like, there's some new procedures coming out. I know here in Korea, for example, like you can get like stem cell procedures done and things like that on your wrist that seem to increase the lifespan. So I mean, they're going to be here in Seoul, so maybe there's an opportunity to test that out. It's pricey.
Paperthin is cyborg.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just put some titanium in those wrists and he's good to go. But I think I'm kind of curious about that because I know that a lot of players here in Korea have had pretty significant wrist and elbow injuries that they've been able to come back from, not just stem cell treatment, but others. That Korean medicine is pretty top notch. So maybe there's a world where they could fix that. But I mean, in the short term, again, I'm not super thinking that Talon is going to compete this year. I think they're building for future stuff, which is frankly what a lot of teams are doing.
Honestly, that is probably the best twist I've ever heard on any player's injury becoming suddenly a cyborg. Thank you very much for that one, Honestly, it sounds good. But taking it back to APAC, right? There's one thing that we definitely need to talk about, and that is T1, because you need to enlighten us a little bit. Because obviously they have recently signed Saya as well as I hope I say it not Beomjun. I hope it's not incorrect. If in case I did, thank you very much. Very good to learn.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's why we have experts actually here. No, not us, Vansilli. But either way, listen, it is what it is. But this brings us to a point, right, where we have to take a look at this team, and they obviously had their less successful NA run, and now they're swapping back to the region. How promising do you personally believe this lineup is, Paperthin?
I mean, I think they're pretty solid overall. I mean, I think they're top half of the APAC leagues, or the teams that I've seen so far. Obviously, I'm expecting Saya player to be their duelist. They've already said, maybe tongue-in-cheek, but Autumn did tweet that, Munchin's going to be their IGL, but the rest of that tweet was kind of very much, there it is right there, the Autumn tweet here. Saya duelist, Zeta is a god, Bon is an import, and, Bumjun is, I think going to be...
Who's the god?
The god is Zeta. So Zeta, the initiator specialist. So I think, I think you can look at this roster and guess pretty well what they're going to be doing. Bon, he likes to play chamber, so you could see him doing that, and then Munchkin and Bomjun kind of, one of the two being a controller player. I would guess Bumjun, if I had to just kind of,
Well, he's there as a 6-man, right? So because that goat
Totally
emoji is just like, who the hell's going to be that 5th, right? So
solve that riddle for us.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
From what I've seen so far, that would be my guess in the lineup. I mean, I don't know exactly. So I mean, I know Munchkin's gonna IGL because he's done it before, right? He used to do it on Crazy Raccoon.
Yeah.
And then you could guess with Saya player, he's just too good of a duelist to not stick him in that role. I think Zeta's probably one of my favorite initiators in the world, just period. You know, and then you bring in Autumn from you know, the old Cloud9 staff as well, a very, very highly respected coach in Korea. You know, former Overwatch coach as well. So I think this is, again, a team that probably can't compete with DRX out the rip, but you're seeing some really solid fundamental pieces being put into place early to eventually build to the point where they're going to be a contender here in the APAC League.
Yeah, can I just say, Paperthin, it sounds like you're holding something back from us. Listen, that tweet showed 5 player names. It said Bumjun was going to be their 6th, and there was a little goat emoji. Who is the goat emoji? Do you know who the goat emoji is, Paperthin?
I don't know now. Actually, the players that I thought it might be got snagged. So I'm kind of curious.
Tell me yes or no.
It's going to be.
Is it somebody from Dam
Blink
1?
Twice.
Yeah. Is it somebody from Dam 1 Kia? Because Dam 1 at some point, I think there was people saying like in on Twitter, like nobody's getting picked up from Dam 1 Gaming. And if you're looking at that, I'm thinking of Lakia, right? Lakia, if there is a goat that was mentioned there that we know about, that goat outside of, I guess on the international scene, it'll have to be Lakia at that point. Or even Esperanza for me, or Allow. I think one of those 3 would be a great addition to this roster. And they can't really go for a certain import outside because they already have ban. And I feel that there's still going to be a roster that is going to stick with a full Korean roster because it's T1. So I'm guessing it's somebody in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
It has to be a Korean player with the language barrier, most likely. I mean, Bon speaks Korean, right? You know, even though Zeta and Bon are Duolingo, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Lakia. I could definitely see that. In my heart of hearts, I hope it's Bunny, but I don't think it will be. You know, I miss him
love
so
Bunny.
much, but
yeah,
I'm a Bunny. I am obsessed with him. What can I say? But I think Lakia is probably the most likely player that's left out there because Texture is on GE, right? So he's already gone. I would have said he's actually probably the best overall player that was in the free agent pool. Or well, even though he was still technically on Damwon, you know, the player outside of the main orgs. So yeah, I think Lakia makes sense for them. Obviously he seemed to be struggling a little bit towards the end of last year, and I really wasn't a big fan of him going over to Exist. I thought that was kind of a weird move because I don't think it really improved his play in any respect, other than he got to beat up on some bad Japanese teams for a while, and then kind of once they started hitting the good teams, he was kind of mediocre. Frankly, he was pretty average in a lot of their later stage games in the Japanese league. So yeah, I mean I think Lakia would probably be my top pick right now.
Hell yeah.
We'll see.
Confirmed.
We'll see.
Confirmed by Paperthin.
Confirmed.
Yeah. Okay. Good. We got it sealed. We got it signed. Paperthin, thank you very much for your time. Finally, someone who can enlighten us on this beautiful region. Very much appreciated, and I hope to see you soon on the show again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
A pleasure.
Peace, brother.
See you later. Thankfully, someone who knows something, and not the two of you. Going from that, right? Before we dive deeper into actually the conversation we're about to have right now, I directly want to go for this and set the statement with what we're taking a look at. We're talking about Cypher Buffs, and we're not making this thing up. It actually has been said in one of the developer videos, and we can show you right now.
Yeah, so something that players can look forward to is we are buffing Cypher. That'll be coming soon. We are, yep. And
is his head tinier when you take his hat off?
Even tinier.
Yes! That sounds needed.
The worst potential joke you could have made about that. Honestly.
Cypher is harder to shoot when his hat is off, though. That is an actual buff.
Yeah, but this is not an actual thing that's going to buff it. I don't want to talk about Tanner, listen. We have to go about our actual man Cypher right here, right?
Yeah.
And he has become somewhat worthless, sounds harsh, but not really useful anymore on most of those maps at this point.
Yeah, Cypher's in a really shitty spot. He really is. The one thing that I think that always sucks for Cypher is like the ability to capture forward information, right? Like a Killjoy turret does so much more, right? It's a little bit harder to kill, and it's going to get you early information in aggressive spots. Whereas that camera, you see it, you tap it, it's gone. And then obviously his alt is atrocious. I don't know where we're at and maybe talking about some of these changes, but Cypher definitely needed them, is desperate for them. The only time that I think you're really seeing Cypher get any type of value nowadays is when it's just randomly thrown into a map that people don't usually play it, and you can just get some like one-off trips every now and then, right? Like if you play 24 rounds on Breeze, you need to know 48, I guess, with 2 trips, 48 different trip spots to actually get the value out of the Cypher. So yeah, it would be really cool to see some big changes to that agent.
Yeah. I mean, Cypher fell off because Chamber's still just too strong, right? You can't go above just not having a Chamber. You could have somebody that go up, you could have a trademark for information, and that's already good enough. And you have free escapability with a Chamber. And that is like three fucking roles in one character, which is great to have a Chamber in your roster. Right. Cypher, like, what the hell can you buff in there? Because I still think that his trips are pretty good. I still think that his cages are decent with the audio queue, but I actually agree with Anders. I don't even know if Anders is trolling or not, but the fact that you had slows with Cypher cages before, I'm actually down for that shit. Because now that you have gravity wells that actually puts people in place, now that you have seizes that you throw on the ground that puts people in place, if you have a cage and you have the audio queue and you're forcing the player to go in there, then do a fucking Cypher cage molly, do a Cypher cage nade, something like that, just to bring that buff back.
What do you think, Tanner? Do you think that is the right kind of move? Because honestly, there was a time where I felt like Cypher was kind of not overpowered, but insanely strong. What would you like to change on Cypher?
Okay, this is honest to God. Look, this is it, and I'm telling you, this is it.
Oh,
okay?
No.
Okay, so hold on. The slows would be really cool because right now, people like when you throw a Cypher cage. I remember the first time I ever saw it. I think it was Steel on Bind inside shower. Somebody tossed out a Cypher cage, and he was just running through the cage, just making a bunch of noise because every time you step through it, it makes that stupid sound. And it's like, it's awful. Now, if somebody's trying to do that and they're getting slowed, kind of like a mini stun, you know, the cage is a lot more deadly. People can't just disrespect it. But forward information is the problem. I think some way, somehow, Cypher needs to be able to ult from his camera. I think that if you can cam out and ult a dead body, that's a little bit further than you can reach, and you don't want to put yourself on the line.
Or a global ult.
Or, yeah, sure, or a global ult, just an easier way to be able to get that information for your team. And I think a couple of things can happen because the other day I tagged somebody, and we all know that Cypher cam tag sucks. And I would peek the corner, and every time it would blink yellow, I would shoot, and they weren't there. I eventually died. I'm a shitter, but that also sucks.
Yeah, I don't think that's the agent issue right there.
I think what needs to happen, though.
Issue right there. I don't even know how to fuck you're ranked higher than I am in this game, dude.
Let the young man speak.
Well,
Please, go on, Tanner.
Yeah, guys, it's a goddamn agent issue, and Vansilli is senile. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I think they need to take, what is it? They need to take inspiration from Rainbow Six Siege. There's an agent, I think his name is Lion. Okay, so check this out. Lion has an ability. When you ping Lion's ability, players have to stay still. Yeah. If you move, you get revealed. I think they could maybe change his ult to be something like that, to where once Cypher ults, everybody's got to fucking like lock it down and literally not move, and it just puts you in a bad spot. It makes that ult actually scary to deal with.
Right. Okay.
Fuck that noise.
That's a cool idea. You know, for the jokes and gags, we have our classic. What is that? Salah, please shut the fuck up, Salah. Shut the fuck up. You can explain
but please
later.
don't shut the fuck up when you come on later.
No, he's not gonna. Listen, I love this man deeply. I appreciate him so much. I'm gonna tell you later what he said the first time he met me. For the jokes, right? We're going to take a look at once more what actually the camera could do, because this was the biggest fucking joke in the game, which had to be figured out way fucking later. That this is actual a thing. That this what we see right now was an actual thing. If you recently joined Valorant, you didn't see this. But how often did this happen in the early stage of the game that you were actually being shot by? It hardly happened, but it was stupid as fuck, to be honest.
Sheriff pistol round, long C on Haven. It was
Look at
so
that.
strong. It was so strong. It
Look
was
at
so
that.
good.
Yeah, you
I
can give
love
the
it.
camera a gun.
Give it back.
How
And it
are
has
those
unlimited
looks?
ammo.
let it have the chamber tool effects on top of that too. I think that would be
Yeah,
fucking
give it-
awesome. Yeah, just give me
Chamber
up.
headhunter to the camera.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
You know what? Let's just have Cypher be a camera. Fuck it. It's just an AI in the map,
Yeah,
just going
sure.
through the
Hey,
fucking walls.
great idea. Let it be a sentinel. Then
That's
have a shooting
actually the
camera.
reworker split. That's the reworker split. You could actually choose chamber and be within the futuristic walls, all over the map. There you go. I
Wait,
solved
but
it.
then Yeti would have if Cypher became like a cam and a free cam, Yeti would be the top free
easiest job
agent
in the
on the
world.
market. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeti would be the top free agent. Everybody would want Yeti on their team to play Cypher and just free cam for all the info. So shout out Yeti
gentlemen,
if that happens.
Let us wrap it up here. Give me short 15 seconds what you would actually buff about it, starting with you, Tanner. What would you buff quickly with Cypher?
I think I don't know about the lion thing and like the revealing thing, but I think the ping on the ult needs to change, and I think he needs to they need to give him a better way to be able to use that ult, because on defense it sucks when you get a kill in a long angle and then you just can't use your ult for the next 4 rounds. You can't
5 more
restack
seconds.
it. It sucks.
All right,
more
perfect.
range.
Vansilli, say something smart, please. Please say something smart.
Global ult for sure.
Yeah.
And the second one, bring back the slow cages, but not too buffed, where you could get slowed going in with an audio cue, but you could still run out without being slowed.
All right, gentlemen, we have to see right now. We have to take a look on the clock, and we're going to quickly set something up. Quickly, Vansilli. You have to give this is a yes or no.
You asked me
question,
15 seconds, I said 5 seconds.
No, it's okay. Listen to me. It's okay. It's a different question.
Okay.
I wasn't there.
Okay,
Calm
okay.
down.
Okay,
We're getting there.
Let's go.
Sorry that you had to see
30
Betty
seconds now.
Mummified Tanner.
Yeah.
Either way. Can you agree? Because we're swapping topics. We're going to Game Changers. This might be a little odd to start with, but we have to give a man some room to speak. Quickly, do you agree with the sentiment that I'm going to have, that when we take a look at the teams, that it's fine that we have those 125 slots? Sorry, 147 if I remember correctly.
74.
174.
Thank you very much. 174 slots.
Yeah, the numbers right.
Hey, my bad, man. 174 tickets for Game Changers. Do you think that is a fair assessment to do, Vansilli? Yes, no question.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So we both agree on that. I think it is a fair thing to do. You know, you don't know how many people actually attend. You don't know if it's going to be that big of a fan base. You don't know how many people fly to Berlin for that. But I know, because, you know, we're so alike, Vansilli, there's one man who disagrees with us. Tanner.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about it last week. You didn't elaborate your opinion. It's your time. Please tell me.
So check this out. Last week, off air, Ian and I went back and forth for about 20 minutes on Game Changers, 174 seats, and why I think it's bullshit. Now listen.
Go ahead.
I love Riot Games. I'm all for Riot Games, obviously. Riot Games is my life. And I'll agree with Ian. Last week I didn't feel this way, but they are going above and beyond by hosting a global LAN tournament for Game Changers. It's all been online. Me personally, I think that, how do I say this? What the Game Changers scene means, hosting this LAN with 174, right? So like, because there has not been a safe space for women and marginalized genders in Valorant or in esports, really in any sports, traditional sports even, I think above and beyond is not enough. And I think that we need to go even further. I'm not saying a 50,000 seat studio. Yes, we need to go infinity and beyond. And I'm not saying 50,000. I'm not even saying 5,000. But we already saw the Twitter kind of backlash that we got. We have 2 EMEA teams going, right? And that could sell out 174 seats themselves. And this is the first chance as esports fans that we've really been able to be behind a scene for 2 years. And I know that there's probably 100 people from North America alone that would fly out to support this because of what this cause is. So as grateful as I am for this opportunity for Game Changers as a whole from Riot Games, I think there is a bit more that we could do. And I know some other big content creators feel that same exact way. And it just feels like we can't do our part in supporting this, you know, by going and being there, because if we just sit and watch from home, sure, we're supporting, but that's no different than what we've done for the past 2 years as supporters. So I will be probably sitting from and watching from my house versus actually being able to go out there, spend the money to support this scene that I've been behind since the inception and the scene that I freaking love, man. So I do feel again, I'm very grateful for this opportunity for the players and for the fans, but for 174 of them, it just doesn't feel like enough. And I know tickets are going back on sale or something like that soon, so maybe they found a way, but it sucks that as fans we can't support more.
I definitely agree with you in that sentiment. As a fan of Game Changers, like, it'd be nice if there was actually more people to be able to come and spectate. But I think even in trying to figure out how to prepare for the event in 2022, for this one too being the first year, I still think that it's nice that we have it here, Tanner. And on top of that is
I agree.
trying to figure out a venue as well. If I'm not mistaken, Zescht, in Germany, in Berlin, it's just very difficult to plan all of that on top of that to get all the logistics and the costs around putting the event together on time for in such a shorter timeline too, because we don't really know what was really going to happen in 2022 for like LAN events until like 3 months into the year.
It makes sense to use your own asset in that sense, right? And second of all, I'll be honest with you. First of all, Guild has no fans, so it would be all G2 fans that would be coming. First of all, starting with that, and second of all, is it actually you didn't know if it would grow? You didn't know if Game Changers would grow. I see your points, and I think this is a really good learning for next year. But it's a bit of a what is situation. And gentlemen, we've all been angry today. We've all had some anger issues. Basically, it's a bit of our therapy, right? We're getting paid for therapy, basically. So the point right here is, right? You talked about how Game Changers is not really fulfilling your needs. I get you, Tanner, right? Vansilli, you haven't been too furious today, but I'm sure we're gonna find a topic for that. I'm not even worried, right? Now it's my turn. Gentlemen, it's my turn. I want to say something good about that first event that we have in the offseason called SuperDome. And you know what? SuperDome tried really hard. First of all, if you didn't watch it, what the hell is SuperDome? We had 6 teams from the MENA region, 2 that actually came from the region of Europe, which was Ascent as well and Fnatic. And you know what? The idea was cool, right? I really appreciate the idea. And an event in Egypt, great thing. Awesome. I love it. Really, really nice to see. But what actually happens...
What happened?
I tell you. So the thing is, we had some decent Valorant. Fnatic won the debut of Leo, right? Great player, showed what he can do. Was just filling in, taking the role that Enzo mostly took. It was great. Talked a lot about Mini about that. But you know what actually messed with my head? The times at what people had to cast. And Vansilli, you've been around this forever, so you know what it means when you are.
Yeah, that's why it's not an issue,
12
right?
hours straight. That is why it is an issue, because this is like 2005 things. Their game starting at 11:30 Central European time, and their casters who sit there cast 7 best of ones in a row without a rotation. I know Riot is trying, and I saw ringers there, and I'm sure that Riot wasn't too happy. They even had games that suddenly were not casted in English. Just telling you that right there. This is not normal. So in my eyes, right here, I'm just super confused because it is a great idea for the region. I think it's super important to support MENA, but man, oh man, where are we that we are still back in the spot where you cast 10 hours in a row without real breaks?
I think it's a logistics. Again, I'm going to go back with logistics again, but
please,
when was the last time that we had like almost an event that was at the global scale that had global reach in a region in the meta, right? Because back then, again, let's talk about it. When I was casting back then in like 2005, 2006, and I was doing Counter-Strike Source for CGS in Dubai, I literally went through the same thing. It was going like casting at a mall. We were doing very, very long days. The matches were delayed because of technical issues, not figuring out the network and stuff like that too. And I feel that maybe now, from then when I did it in 2006 till now in 2022, we haven't seen too many of these events going on at the global scale, right? So I think it's just kind of like, hey, we're hopping back on the saddle. Lessons learned. How do we do it better for this time? And hopefully that major issue becomes a minor issue once they do the debriefing of it and prepare for the next one. Hopefully they have a next one as well. But I do also like around it, like supporting the region was the casters' parents coming in to support them too. I looked at a lot of the pictures on the Twitter feed from Riot representatives too that were there that seemed to be pretty happy with what they saw within the scene. I saw so many cosplayers within Valorant as well in those pictures too. So just that in itself, the crowd is there. There is a fan base. There is a player base. And now it's just trying to play catch up with the infrastructure to make sure that we have the best experiences possible. I know as somebody working the event or somebody playing the event as a caster or as a player, it might not be, the best in the greenest pastures. but I think it's still great to be a part of something that's going to be hopefully even bigger later on.
Let's hope for it. Let's hope for it. But you know what, gentlemen? It's we're getting away from the sinister days, right? We're getting away from the sad things in life. Let's talk about something that is actually worth a proper debate, right?
Okay.
And I hope also that we can maybe go into that later with Salah. But let's talk about something that I called coaching and resources. And this is supported by a man that I personally enjoy. His name is Milan. He used to be the assistant coach of Ascend. If every org should hire this man right now, a very wonderful, hard-working Dutch individual who can, at the end of the day, still play NBA because he's 2 meters something. But either way, right?
What's that in feet? You're on a North American
come
show.
on, 6 something, 6'5". How big is Kobe Bryant? How big is Kobe Bryant? You know?
I don't know. I don't follow basketball.
Oh, great. So you want me to know. I don't know. He's a very tall man. Appreciate the lat so much. He was, follow it. Very good that you follow him. Good choice. Either way, he was kind enough, as I had a conversation with him, to take a look at a table. And I'm going to explain the table to the viewers real quick, Tanner, and then you're going to give me your thoughts on that, because it's really important to, get in the nitty-gritty of things. So maybe we can show that up right now so we can directly dive into it so we don't waste any more time on it, because I'll tell you one thing. It is kind of important to take a look. Okay, so what you see, besides the pixelated things, there's also rumors and things like that, is you see there's basically numbers, very confusing, I know, and a lot of names. What is this? This is the firepower table. So you see on the left-hand side where there's a T, it says there's a 1, which is in yellow, there's a 6, which is in blue, 8, green, and basically this means, perfect.
Hey, look at that.
I love this production.
Daniel owns.
Awesome. So when you take a look there at firepower in Na'Vi, there's Xiao, and he's a yellow 1, which means he's the highest scorer, right? He's the best. He's number 1 in this team considering firepower. Same goes with Safe. Same goes with Durka. You see the idea, right?
So you're ranking the teams based on their roles.
This is firepower ranking. This is firepower ranking.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to finish up with the explanation. And then there's a second one, which is role-specific competence. If you take it the second part of the table, this is so complicated for every viewer, I know. The second part of the table, maybe we can take a look. So then we can look both side by side. I'm going to give you that idea as well, because then there is a role-specific kind of launch. Thank you very much. Thank you, production. So there's roles. There's obviously a number for everything. Same one once more. And for example, support, Xiao, number 1 player. All right? So I think it doesn't get any easier. So on the right-hand side, you see the total score. The left get the better. And now, Tanner. I'm sorry for talking so long, man. Now, Tanner, I know you guys are North American and everything, but to be frank, right? With this table that Milan provided, I think it is very fair to assume that Na'Vi is by far, the former FPX is by far the strongest at this point.
By 1 point in total, right? Because they're just like 1 point under Liquid. It's not by far.
Listen. Let Tanner speak.
Okay. Sorry.
Ask Mr. Tanner.
Vansilli, what did you just say? By 1 point. What do you, Team Liquid and Na'Vi? It's by 1 point. It's not that far. I think this is to be expected. What I think is interesting with this is so on the right side, it was the totals from both of the 2 pages. And it looked like on the firepower page, you were allowed to have more than 1. You weren't ranking 1 through 8. I think Safe was up there and Durka were both like ranked 1 in firepower. So I think that's a little interesting. Whereas, so right here. So in the other ones, this one we have 2 1s, whereas the other one you'll see a pretty strict 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But yeah, I think just looking at this, the one thing that you don't get from this chart is how well the players mesh, right? Bringing in new players into Team Liquid, although they might just be like technically 1 point behind in role and firepower than Na'Vi. Na'Vi's been together, except for 1 player, right? They're not getting artists. So I think Na'Vi, based off of all of this, and then that unseen factor, does look like the strongest team right now.
The only thing that really has to mention that a lot of this is rumors, right? This is not 100% finalized, that every player has been really announced. But Vansilli, go ahead.
Yeah, but I have questions looking at that because you're ranking players and teams by firepower role from 1 to 8 based on what you have here in the EMEA for partnership. But doesn't this become a little bit more subjective rather, how you're ranking these based on how Milan's putting these, or what are the stats? What are you putting together in this? Are these numbers, or is the ranking going to drop off based based on the roster that is going to be quote unquote officially announced, right? Just as Tanner was mentioning, let's say Navi's plan falls through, and then all of FPX goes into different teams in the partnership program. Well, now the rankings go down because Shao maybe cannot be as good as he could be in that role because Artis is not able to get, or Artis is not there to get the first kills anymore. Therefore, Shao needs to clutch less. Let's put it like that to put it in Lyman's terms, because that's like the biggest storyline that we've seen from FPX.
I see your point. At the same time, I think from every single source that has so far come is that the core stays and Cena joins. There's like multiply reported. So I get what you mean, right? I get what you're saying. Surely it only works in every single one of those pieces is glued together, right? But talking about that, right? And talking about the rating, I think, first of all, thank you very much, Milan, for promoting that and giving this forward. But there's one thing that I wanted to share with you guys, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. I'm going to say it, and then we let DDK talk for a second. Because in my eyes, understandable, in my eyes, the top 4 teams in every region obviously have players deciding matches. But I think a big margin in 2023 is going to come out with the coaches and the staff. And we're going to take a look at that because there's a live example that DDK mentioned in the interview that you can also find on YouTube. We did here in Valoranting. Ian did it. Perfect interview. So let's take a look at that.
Recognize that the amount of work that's necessary for the coaches is pretty crazy. I actually think that you need to run a team and do everything effectively to, like, hit every single area. So you've got running the scrims, running the day-to-day, the player development, the individual time you might want to spend on the players, the research for your playbook or the playbook generation in general. That's incredibly time consuming. Preparing against opponents, doing match specific research. There is a lot of stuff, a lot of different areas, and when you look at what the coaches have to do in the day to day, there really isn't the time to do a lot of this stuff. And there's a lot of stuff I didn't mention too.
Okay, so what are we trying to get at here, Zescht? So I'm looking at Milan's table. I'm listening to what Dan's talking about.
Good.
Are you telling me that coaches are the end all be all of a team's success?
I personally believe the following. I think that the top 4 teams, with what he says right here, they constantly need to not innovate, but basically renovate. They also always had to recreate and restructure themselves instead of, creating a wider playbook. So this is why I believe, and, I don't know, for example, you think about it, Tanner, but where I believe is the future determined on better and more efficient staff that will allow you to, instead of constantly reviewing, to actually preview and take a look at the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I feel like not that that's the only thing that you need, but when you're putting a lot of time into that and you're looking at the players that are playing at the highest level, you're not necessarily, I feel like everybody in Valorant has done a pretty good job of sharing, not necessarily their rule book, but teaching the game holistically, even just like watching and young cracked players, like, the micro gameplay is there for basically everybody. And then the macro gameplay is also, I feel like, almost not self-taught, but when you're able to dive deeper into kind of like the analytics, like even like what Weltis is doing or was doing for Sentinels and kind of what he brings to the table, it's really cool to see that that's being done, because I do think that is kind of the future where the coaches are putting a lot into that and really diving into the numbers. I think it's going to differ though, right? Like Vansilli was talking about that table just in general. I think people are going to have differing ideas or differing results for certain individuals based off of what they feel is valuable to their team.
You need both. I think you need a good coaching staff, but you also need, let's face it, not necessarily, I'm not going to say good players, because everybody that I played into the partnership program, or at least in VCs, are good players, but there needs to be a synergy between good coaching staff and also good potential players around what the coaching staff wants to build, right? Because let's take, for example, the guard, MCE, Cupert, 2 great minds in this game, and they put up a great strat book, but when you're looking at how the team perform going into the VCTs, Saya can play the best Raze, so they had to figure out different roles. Then you play the comfort picks, and then you had to go back into that, because whatever you're trying to build to follow or create a new meta wasn't working with the current tools that you had in terms of players. Another example would be looking at Sentinels. Yeah, you just brought in Weltis, brought in the numbers. They have all the stats that's needed, but did they qualify for LSQ? They did not. What's missing? It's a little bit of that synergy in the players, and also the players buying into the coaching staff's vision of how they want to approach the game. And if there's synergy in there, like 100 Thieves has right now, that's where you kind of have a recipe for success for the future years.
Right. You know what, gentlemen? We've talked enough ourselves, right? We've talked and discussed it enough. Before we go into our next segment very soon, first of all, thanks to Twitch for making this all once more possible. You know, we're staying on Twitch. We're going to make it on Twitch. So don't worry. We're going to bring you a few more interesting topics about Valorant over here on Twitch. Because very soon, and this is why you should stay here, maybe get a snack or something to drink, we got Team Vitality coach Salah joining us. So we'll head into a quick little break. We're going to be right back with you.
If you've enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and make sure you hit the bell for the future noties, but also comment below with what you'd like to see in our future shows.
Welcome back to Valoranting, the show where knowledge is combined with free goofs who have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
6 IQ total!
Yeah. I swear to God, the way that I appreciate you and hate you at the same time is remarkable.
And I got 5 of them.
Can we just directly get our interview guest in? It is Salah from nobody else than Team Vitality, a man who definitely knows his business and knows what he is talking about. Salah, let's start things first of all. I'm going to tell you the rules here. You can swear, you can be mean, you can leak, you can fuck off everything you can do, basically, when it comes to an NDA. That's fine by me. No worries. Second of all, I'm very happy to have you here. And I'm going to tell you, right, just also the others, the way that I Salah met in person the first time, the first thing he said, that fucker, was like, I thought you were way shorter in real life. So nice to have you here, Salah. Appreciate you very much coming over. How are you feeling today?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you guys?
It's very good to hear. Listen, let's start things very casually, right? You have been announced not too long ago for Vitality. And let's put it this way, right? Your team is not fully complete right now. So the brief question, how's Prax going? How are Prax going? How are trials going?
Amazing. Amazing. Listen, I have my PR ready thing on the back of my wall there. The roster's great.
Yeah?
It will be out soon. We'll know everything soon.
Promising.
It's good. Everything's going really good, I think.
It's good to hear. It's good to
Nice.
hear. Listen, man, we saw a lot of interviews, and one thing I'm going to start with, right? I'm directly diving into that, and then give it to my friends. You have been basically, I'm going to be harsh about it, you've been an absolute no-namer at the beginning of Valorant. You didn't have any experience. I mean, that's fair to say. Like, honestly, fair to say. You didn't have any experience. You didn't come in with anything. And you basically didn't do much in any esports in a big extent, right? Can you tell me, actually, what it was for you that you said, you know what, I actually want to be a coach in a game? And back then, by the way, I think 2020, you've also been 18 years old. So guide me through that a little bit.
So I played games competitively, I want to say, like not an esports level, not a tier 1 esports level, but I played them competitively. I played games like TF2 way back.
Ooh, nice.
And from there I went to a game called Paladins, which was knockoff Overwatch kind
Bonker's
of.
home.
It was really good. And funnily enough, I did meet someone called Bonker from that game. Became very good friends with him. And I think I never really had any plans to be an esports pro or be a head coach, or wasn't ever really the goal. I was at law school when Valorant was like the year Valorant came out, and I was having a really good time. I was enjoying law school, and then this thing called COVID happened, and it kind of just put everything on hold. There was no class, no school. I finished my exams for the year, and I remember I was talking to Bonker one day, and he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have this free agent team. If you want to come coach, feel free." I figured, yeah, I've got nothing better to do. Might as well, test it out, have some fun. Figured I'd go back to law school after, and then that team got really good, and other teams kind of came around, and yeah, from there it snowballed, I guess.
So I've got a question, and this one's a little more probably lighthearted. Who the hell is coming up with these team names? Bonk, Honk, and Yonk. What? Who the hell's coming up with these team names?
So the first one was Bonk. Just I think the thing is we had like 5 Swedes, right? And Swedes are very it's hard to get an answer out of Swedes, and most of the time you can't get it's hard to do those kinds of things with them. And I think one day we were just talking about it, and it's like, just call it Bonk. Someone, I don't remember who it was. Someone just said, let's just call it Bonk, and then it was just Bonk. And I think like when we had that, which was my team with a very, very good friend Strong. Worked very close with him, and it was my idea that it would be a bit funny, basically, just to call it Honk. And from there, it just kind of spiraled, and we kept doing it.
That's awesome.
Cool.
But I want to get into that, into the conversation you had with Bunker, because I kind of want to know a little bit about yourself and about the coaching position, right? Because in other articles, you just came with an interview recently. You know, you're a remarkable prodigy as a very young coach at 22, and it's still very young as well as even a professional player, right? So why did you decide to say, hey, I actually want to stick to coaching instead of really wanting to try to pursue into like the competitiveness of tactical FPS, I guess, at that point? Because apparently it's just a conversation. Say, hey, you want to try coaching for us, and then you just never wanted to play competitively, or how did that go?
I mean, for me, like on the playing side, I've never really been good at games. Is the thing. But more than that, I'm not gonna sit here and say I definitely could be a player, or if I played enough, I'd get there. I don't think so. Or maybe I'd be like a tier 2 or tier 3 player at best. But I think for me, everything that I think I'm good at, everything that I enjoy, even in life or even in law school or even in, whatever, I think that I feel like I'm skilled at kind of does point towards coaching a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of those things where it was, yeah, I tried it out of basically just talking to a friend about it. But then I realized I could be very good at this. I can be, I enjoy this. This feels right, basically.
Awesome.
And it never really just felt like I should be a player. I should, even attempt to do that.
So, and I'm pretty sure you mentioned this with your interview with Dexerto, but to have it again here on our show, do you feel there are any like direct correlations with the things that you've kind of learned or maybe taught yourself while you're going through law school? Because there's obviously a lot with that, right? It's kind of the hardest schooling really a lot of people could do. Are there any kind of direct correlations from law school into coaching that you think maybe kind of helps you, as such a young individual yourself, have a very open and broad mind?
I think it's not that I went to law school and learned things and it translated over. I think it was rather I went to law school and let's say, a good coach, or I enjoy coaching because of the same reasons. Basically, they match up. Whereas law school, in England at least, the exams are very much they give you a problem, they give you, X did this, X, killed this person, yada yada, solve this problem basically. And coaching, I think, is a lot like that as well. It's problem solving. It's
Yeah.
At its core, it is problem solving. It is, why are we playing badly? Why are we, shit? Why is this player not feeling comfortable? Yeah, they are. So I think it's not that like I learned something from law school that helped in Valorant or helped in coaching. I think it's more that the thing that drew me towards law school also drew me towards coaching.
Cool.
Right, and this brings me to a very important point. Talking about history in particular, maybe we can bring up the Liquipedia article as well, where you see also the things you've done, right? Hong Kong, whatever. You've been in a variety of teams, and most importantly, a variety of region, North America as well as Turkey, and obviously mostly ending up in Europe. Can you give me a bit of your thoughts on what every single of those steps, or let's say blocks, 2021, 2022, were the main lessons, particular as a coach? What kind of aspect or category as a coach would you say each year has given you the most valuable lesson in?
I think with Bonk, I wasn't a good coach. I wasn't, what I think I was 1% of what I am now, maybe less. I think that was the first time I'd ever coached. That was my first high-level esports. I think for me, it was just about learning, especially from Bonker, who was at that point, a two-time Paladins World Champion. I was trying to learn as much as possible from him, but even the people around me in that team. So I think there it was genuinely just about learning everything. And I was someone who was very open to learning, but it was, to me, always obvious that it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. It wasn't going to be this thing where I was there for years and with them for years. They were a Swedish-speaking core, among other things, right? But I think for that, it was just learning about myself as a coach and learning the game. And I think that was the big thing from there. When you go to phase, it was about, we were a second placed EU team. I was coming, I came off with all this knowledge and all this information and all this, these things about coaching. And that was like my first real test of coaching, in my opinion, because I didn't really, no, it's not that I didn't have a chance to do it in Bunk. It's rather, it wasn't, I wasn't ready then, or I wasn't there yet in terms of being a very, very good coach. I think in phase, it was about going to a team that was lacking a lot of things, was lacking, game things. And I could just add and add and add and add and add. And I think I did do that in phase, or at least when I speak to them still to this day, they'll still say, hey, you taught us so much, you added a lot. But it was in FaZe, I think there was still a thing of me being young. I think it wasn't necessarily that of my age, but rather my experience, right? I think it was my first time being in a team and leading a team and, trying to be the head coach. And I think there were certain things that I wasn't ready for, if that makes sense. There were certain personality issues. I don't know, controlling a team, being able to not let a team run you over or certain personalities run you over. And I think in some aspects I was really good in FaZe, and game knowledge wise I was really good, but in other aspects I still had to learn, and I think FaZe was perfect for that. I learned how to always kind of at least not necessarily be a dictator of a team or just be in control all the time, but at least always be there with the team mentally, always make sure that I'm on top of everything. If there's an issue, I'm aware of it. If there's something that I'm failing at or sucking at, I'm aware of it so I can teach myself. So I think that was the big thing for me in FaZe.
If you and sorry to cut you, Salah. I wanted to ask you because and to interrupt you on the portion where you wanted to learn a lot, right? When you first started coaching, and I remember there was a tweet and even a Discord that was created for European coaches that wanted to invite like up and comer coaches, casters, and whatnot. Me as an American, North American commentator, analyst, I kind of felt like shut out of this. It's like, what the hell's going on in this Discord? What are you guys talking about here? So, what did you actually learn in this Discord, and how open are you guys within coaches of like talking through strategies or whatnot in Valorant? Is that
it a 10-man? Is it a 10-man Discord?
Yes.
There you go.
I think that server it never really turned into like we're sharing strategies, we're talking a bunch. It never really turned into that. I think it was just more at that time a platform for people to meet each other. I think for me, for example, it was amazing because I got to meet Strong, who also taught me so much and also helped me big time in my career. I think if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in the same place I was necessarily because of the things he was able to give me, right? He's like a 2-time LCS winner. Just taught me everything almost about not necessarily Valorant, but the other side, the political side of esports, the mental side, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was I got to meet a guy like that. I got to meet a guy, Doombros in the Mill, for example.
Yep.
I think it was just about meeting people.
Okay. Networking,
it never really turned into like a sharing strats, talking about this, gossiping or leaking it. It never really turned into that.
Okay. No theory crafted.
This brings me to one point that we guys earlier started on that I really want to get into. Because you talk about Strong. You obviously have Gorilla on your side as well, who's basically, just for everyone else, basically the assistant/analyst for the side of Vitality. And this brings me to the point where I set up this theory, and we can discuss this live right now. So I believe the top 4 teams we have in EMEA and NA, let's imagine for a second that they're similar/equal individually skilled. There's going to be slight differences, but imagine that. And my theory was that the year of 2023 is going to be decided by the best support staff available, by the ones who make actually the game easily understandable for teams, for players, and also get them not only to always reinvent their game book, but also like to also broaden it. Would you say that this is something that most definitely misses a component, or is that actually the case?
I do think there's going to be a little bit of a gap between number 1 to 2 and then everyone else, and then 7 to 10 maybe. I think there's going to be these little gaps basically where it's like 3 so 3 teams are going to be the best, 3 teams are going to be like close to that, and then those 3 teams are going to be above the bottom 3 teams or something like that basically, and then there's going to be a 10th. I think coaches are going to play a big part in it, of course. I think coaches and IGLs especially. I think I don't know exactly who's getting who or where everyone is going, but
sure you don't.
I think coaches are going to play a really big part, because I think in a league format, for me at least, the way I think about it is the last 2 years have been like a fever dream, right? Where it's qualifier into qualifier into qualifier into qualifier into qualifier, right? And you don't know when the next qualifier is going to be. You don't know when your next chance to play is going to be. You don't know any of these things, right? It's a guessing game almost. So to be able to sit down and say, okay, our next match is next week, and then the next one is next week, and know how to pace your team and know how to when you need to prepare and how you need to prepare, super good. I think good coaches are that's going to favor good coaches, and that's going to favor the coaches that are going to know how to prepare very well and know how to change their team up and help their team adapt very well. So I think coaches are going to play a big part. I think IGLs are going to play a big part, of course, but I do agree also that there isn't. I think maybe some people are going a bit too crazy with the some teams are mediocre, some teams are super teams. I think teams are much more even spread than you think. I was thinking about the other day, right? I saw like a list, I think, of potential rumors, basically, right? And if the list is true, how many players that you would think really deserve franchising aren't there? One, two, maybe. Like the players who are in LCQ, the players who are in VCT the whole year, most of them are rumored to be going to teams. So it's not that the field is weaker. It's just that everyone's gone to different places. Everything's been spread out. So I think everyone's kind of on an even playing field. So it's just going to be about which team is going to going to mesh the best, and which team is going to be the best prepared, I guess, right?
And so, kind of on that topic or that thought of coaches meshing or players meshing, coaches meshing. Anders just joined us, missed the first couple minutes of the interview and how you kind of met Strong through the Discord, and what he did for you. But he's asking, like, where is this major role without Strong? Your, in Anders' words, de facto partner in crime. What was Strong doing for you historically, and how are you planning to now adapt to a new dynamic?
I think Gorilla is an amazing assistant coach. I think Gorilla is really, really good. I just want to say that before anything, right? Because he's the person I currently work with. I think Gorilla is really, really good. He even teaches me a lot as well, so it's really nice to have someone like that. And I think he is very close to Strong, which I hold in very high regards. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen at any time. But
Wait a
I
sec, hold
think
on. We never know what could happen. Are you saying that
it's
Strong's
hard to
maybe gonna
say,
follow
right? I
you
mean,
over? Like, what's
the future is never clear. But I think with Strong, I had this really good relationship because we built up a system together. We built up an understanding of Valorant together. So he knew how to anti-strat based on what I liked. I knew how to coach based on how he thought. It was a good kind of mesh of the way we thought about the game, and we really clicked on that regard, right? Like he was the guy who could just give me notes and notes and notes and notes of teams and give me everything about, you ask this guy for something so obscure and he'll find it with you like in that, right? He's an amazing researcher. So I think having Strong was a luxury for me. It was something that it was like a superpower almost, right? So I think with that, Strong made everything easy. I'll say like this. He wasn't, it's like a cheat code. I'll say like that. Strong is like a cheat. I think he's one of the best in the world at what he does.
Oh. Listen, okay, we have to talk about something. I'm going to be absolutely exaggerating this for every potential TikTok clip here. So you basically had your last. I'm going to say it like this. Maybe it's not entirely true. You basically had your last chance with OG London United. Let's put it like that. You were in NA. You were swapping region left, right the entire time, and you brought OG London United from being absolutely that last one win to being at least in top 4 in LCQ. Can you do us the favor, in the terms that it is understandable and that is not revealing anything for Vitality's work at the moment, how you made that work? How was it possible for you that you made this team from being dead last to actually participating on the top level of LCQ?
I think with OGLU, I think everyone always knew they were they had a good team, right? They played good Valorant sometimes even.
Yeah.
They were almost there. I'll say it like that. They were close to being a tier 1 team or close to being a team that can compete like that. The thing they were missing was structure. They were missing a system. They were missing an idea of playing. They were missing, those things that I bring, that a coach should bring. I think they were missing a lot of those things. And I think for me and Strong, it was really easy to just come in and work. I like to do like, Bonker taught me a lot about the game as an IGL. He taught me a lot of the things I knew at the start. But Boo was kind of like my first love as an IGL, right? He was the guy I got along with the best and, had this amazing partnership with. And we would sit down every day for hours and hours and just say, okay, I would spit and spit and spit a bunch of, let's do this, let's add this. And he would say, yeah, this is good, this is bad. How about this? Why don't we add this as well? And we had this really good partnership going. And I think it was just really easy to add, okay, we're going to play like this. This is our system. This is our structure. This is how we think about the game. This is the concept we need to add. And we just practiced. And luckily enough, the OG team was super talented and super ready for it all and made my life easy as well. So I don't think it was like I came in and just saved everything on my back, but I think it was a mix, right? They allowed me to come in and do my thing. They made it a lot easier for me, and they played really good. And with that, with all the stuff me and Strong brought, it just made it really easy, right? And I think as soon as those players had that system, had that structure, and had that platform, we saw, right, we were able to keep up with most teams, I would say.
So are you able to tell us like a little bit, not exactly what you brought to it, but just generally, like what does structure mean, right?
Yeah, my
I
question.
feel like, okay, perfect. Because I feel like I am a P brain, and I know there are a lot of people who really enjoy these conversations with coaches because we're like, does structure mean that you're telling them what play that they need to run on this, and this? Like, what does structure kind of mean generally? You obviously don't have to reveal the playbook here.
Structure means like it can mean a lot of things, but in my opinion, we always knew what to do in most scenarios, in all of our scenarios. Everything was planned. Everything was, not the calls that were being made. Boo was an exceptional IGL, so he was making really good calls. But when we made those calls, everyone knew what needed to happen. Everyone knew, everything that had to happen within that call. We knew what we needed to do on defense. We knew if they did this, we have to do this. If this happens, this is our reaction. We knew that X means this execute means this. We do it like this. We do it like this. So it was just adding a bunch of just we knew everything. We prepared for everything, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain it without revealing anything to us because I don't want to reveal
For
something.
sure, no,
It's
for
really hard
sure.
to go into detail. But I would say it's just knowing how to play the game as a team, knowing, and I think also one thing, just to have a little rant, I think a lot of teams, I think the difference between tier one team and a tier two team is in scrims, where a lot of tier two teams do this thing where they will run it down in your scrim. Like they will, you know, push everything. Let's do this play in short on a cent. Let's say let's peek mid now. Let's 5v5 mid. Let's push A lobby. Let's push B lobby. Let's push short. Let's make this trap in B lobby. And it's like, brother, you're doing so many things that when you get to officials, you don't know what you practiced. You don't know what you actually want to do in a game. So you've just done all these random things, and it went well in scrims because you were practicing as a certain team, just practicing one default for the entire scrim, right? But when you get to officials, the pressure is there. Your mind isn't as clear as it is in scrims. There is something on the line now, and you're not doing the same plays. You're not having the same comfortability. The game isn't as open to you. And I think that's the mistake a lot of teams make is they just do things in scrims. They don't actually practice with goals. They don't actually practice with something in mind. They just, let's make this play. Let's do this. Let's do X. I think that's a big difference as well, the way people practice. Even today in EU, in NA, it doesn't matter. Like people will constantly just, okay, let's run down mid. It's just like, okay.
So the way people practice also dictates the way that they play, and I wanted to bring this question as well into you being able to coach different regions too, as we've mentioned earlier on the show, right? With the FaZe Clan, a crew over in North America, you had so many good teams in European that you coached, and you also had Turkish teams with Fireflex Esports. And I wanted to ask you, like, what is like one of the qualities of the type of play styles in these three regions that you've kind of noticed that gives an advantage for each of these regions? I don't want to go with strengths and weaknesses. I'm sure there's a reason why you're coaching these regions and these teams too. So let's focus on the strong points too.
I think with EU, I've had this I don't want to say luxury, but I've had this experience of generally working with Eastern Europeans. Weirdly, I'm almost the Lithuanian whisperer at this point. The way how many I've had in my team. So I think with them, at least with the teams I've had, which are generally Eastern European, I think they're very cool. They're very collected. They love to listen. They don't really, they'll sit there and listen to you. And like, for example, you'll be doing theory for an hour and they won't say anything. And you'll the first day you do it, you'll think, are they not listening? What's going on? Have I disconnected from Discord? But then it's just that they are listening, right? And they're doing it, and they really care about it, and they're listening, and they're doing all this amazing stuff. So with the EU, it's generally been like that in my experience. With NA, I really like the energy they have. They're very funny guys most of the time. I remember, like
No doubt.
the crew guys were really funny. I spent like a month with them in Texas. They were really, really funny guys.
Yeah.
And with Turkey, Turkey is a weird one. It's a bit mixed between EU and NA. But I would say like the one thing that Turkey has on its side, which I guess America also has it, but I think most teams are better off if they speak one language and they're from one culture. So the culture is really big in esports, in my opinion. Like if you have different cultures in a team, it's not necessarily that it's not going to work. It's rather it can be harder to work because they speak different languages, not even just the way they're speaking, but the way they react to things, the way they communicate, the way they, if the way they get angry, the way they are happy, right? And with Turkish people, and the benefit of that was I knew how to motivate them. I knew how they operated. They're very family-esque. They're very, compassionate. They're very emotional. So it works really well. Like you say, what, fuck these guys. We want to win. everyone's angry now. If you don't like someone, they don't like someone. If if
Oh, yeah.
one guy's happy, everyone's happy. If one guy's sad, everyone's sad. I think that was the big thing about Turkey, which I enjoyed.
Nice.
Okay, here's the point. You have grown as a strategical individual, but the bigger component is, and shout out to Ian who did the interview with DDK, is obviously the mental game and also the emotional intelligence. Would that be something you said you learned a lot, considering not only the knowledge you give, but as you mentioned, different cultures are reacting differently to criticism. So would you say that is something that you, over your career, right now in those 2 years, have learned a lot, how to approach different types of players? Because there are people who are reluctant, who are really appreciating. Would you say this is a lesson that you actually had in your life so far?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's always been something I've been okay at or decent at, if that makes sense, in life, even just being able to communicate with people, being able to understand, maybe have some empathy, right? And I think coaching is a little bit of that, having a little bit of empathy and realizing, okay, this Polish guy, Mosey, let's say, right, from OG, he communicates in a different way, and it's not necessarily bad, it's not toxic, it's not, but it's not negative in any way, it's just the way he communicates.
It's direct.
And yeah, if I say to him, why are you doing that? Maybe he's going to have a go at me. Maybe he's going to shout at me. Maybe he's going to say, shut the fuck up. It's not because he actually feels those things. It's rather that's just the way he's reacting. That's the way he feels is fit. If you speak to an American guy, they're going to be a little bit more shy about criticism, in my opinion. So it's about understanding how a player ticks and not all the time catering to them, but at least doing it in a way that benefits them, right? Because there's no point of I've learned, a lot of people like to be harsh, but there's no point of being harsh if it's just for no reason. If it's just, to put the guy down or to, if it doesn't help anything, there's no reason to be harsh. There's no reason to be. I mean, it's the same with being nice all the time. There's no reason to be nice if there's no need for it. If there's no benefit from it.
So I guess now, in your experience, you've had unsigned to where you're at now joining the Partnerships League, which is fucking awesome and a pretty like meteoric rise. Do you look back on that and say, thank God I'm fucking out of, the unsigned Stone Ages? Or do you look back on that and say, like, I needed that. I really needed to kind of work through the trenches. How do you feel kind of like recapping your history from where you started to where you are now?
I mean, on one side it's both, right? On one side, I never want to go for like back, but on the other side, of course, it was good for me. Of course, having a team like Honk was the most fun I ever had, I think, in the team. It was amazing. Those guys are more dedicated than a lot of teams I've had that were paid. So I think, yeah, being signed in a franchise league, of course, amazing. A lot of, at least I know what my future is going to be, what the next 6 months, a year, 2 years are going to look like. That's really nice. I can sleep comfortably at night. But there is a certain, amount of fun of building a new unsigned team, looking for an org, but it does get worn out very quickly with the unsigned teams. So yeah, I wish nothing but good things to anyone who's unsigned right now. You have a very hard way ahead of you. But yeah, I think I look back and I'm happy for it, but it's not something I want. I yearn for.
For sure. It's almost like you grinding law school, and then like once you finally get it, all that hard work pays off, right? So you're able to do this right now, taking a break from the law school, doing this in VCT's Valorant, the partnership program. You're in Vitality now. What's that experience been like? Because for me, when when I'm looking at the partnership teams and I hear about Vitality or I hear about Carmine Corp, and I'm hearing about like just the French scene in general, of how like the fan base is and whatnot that follows these partnership teams. What's the what was the welcoming like for you joining the roster? How's the fan base been like seeing you joining Vitality as well?
Amazing. It's been really good. I got a bunch of messages. I had one message that was like, "Oh, you're already the best coach in my eyes," which was super sweet, right?
Yeah.
I got a lot of those messages. So I love the Vitality fans already. They're really, really nice, really humble, really wholesome, rather.
Yeah.
They're like Turkish fans are very much like that as well. But the Turkish fans will swear at you when you start losing games, or like they'll get angry with you, right? Whereas the Vitality fans seem more sweet and more, full trust, full confidence. We trust you, coach. It's really nice. I love it.
That's awesome.
It's been amazing joining.
Actually, talking about that, all the compliments you get, right? I mean, surely there's like personal goals you set yourself for Vitality 2023. And I would like to know, I don't know who you're trialing. I have no clue who you're picking at the end. but I'd still like to personally know from you right here, Salah. What is your goal for 2023? Like, what do you need to see to be like, I think I've done good this year?
I think, I mean, of course, winning, right?
Yeah,
But
of course.
Of course, but
I think realistically, being a, rather, at the very least, I want to be a top 4 team, contending for everything, contesting for everything. I want to be a team that everyone is looking like, yeah, Vitality, they're really fucking good. They're scary. I want to be the team that is, no matter what, you got to play us. We're a test. You have to go through us, right? It's not that we're just, oh, we're playing Vitality, whatever. No, it's like we've got. I want Doombros and them and Emil and them and the, the Navis, the Mills, whatever, whoever. I want them to be like, yeah, fuck, we got to play Vitality. I've got to prepare for 30 hours now.
Hell yeah.
I think at the very least, that's what I want.
That's awesome. Is that goal aligned with the conversations that you had with Vitality too? Because let's take for example 100 Thieves that went through multiple roster iterations just to try to win right off the rip, and anything less than that is not a victory. G2, whenever they're trying to do some like last minute pickups to try to qualify through LCQ, if they don't win LCQ, they failed. So for your conversation with Vitality, if you make it to top 4, is that good enough in Vitality's eyes, or what is their threshold?
I think I'd like to say we're pretty aligned with Vitality in terms of our goals. Like, I think, of course, they want to win no matter what, right? They are a massive org. And that's my only aspiration as well. However, it's not as easy as just, okay, we put together a roster, we win. I think a lot of the teams are going to struggle with that. I think no matter who you are, unless you're a team that's bringing a 3-man, 4-man core and you're already, number 1, number 2, I'll let you guys guess who that is. It's really hard to just come in and build a team from scratch and just win everything.
Try to beat it and stay on top. Yeah.
I mean, if you even look at the Vitality CSGO team, they put together what should have been the most legendary core ever, right? They put Astralis and Zywoo and Apex together. That's unreal.
True.
That is unreal. It took a year for that to for that success to come into fruition. So it's not as easy as just putting together a roster and putting together names and VR. Look at the stats and say, okay, this guy's got the best headshot ratio. This guy's got the best. It's not as easy as that, and just to win, I think it takes time. No matter what, it always takes time. Maybe you're a few roster changes off. I think, I've heard that once, and it was a really good saying, which is you're always 1 or 2 roster changes off. I hope that's not the case with us, but I think it's always about giving everything time, being reasonable, being realistic, right? Realistically, we want to compete at the top.
Yeah, that's exactly
Ideally,
what I want to hear.
As a goal, we want to win.
Yeah.
But the second doesn't come before the first.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Bringing back what you just mentioned about Vitality in the CS:GO roster too, like it did take time, and they worked through the process, and they're finally number 1 on the rankings for HLTV, for example. I think that assures me, because I want to be that person that supports a team and wants to make sure that an organization doesn't want to rush into things too much, where like, hey, if it doesn't work out in the first year, let's just crush everything down and rebuild from the rip, and you're always restarting that cycle, and you're never going to get anywhere. So to see that they have that patience within their CSGO team, I'm hoping to see the same thing for Valorant as well.
It's definitely our goal. It's definitely something we're very, very aware of, and very, very, we know, how much time things takes, and building correctly as well. That's another really big thing. I think a lot of our future decisions, a lot of our decisions, at least that we make together, are always based on what we think is going to be the healthiest long term, no matter what, right? So if there is a decision we've made or we're going to make or whatever, I think it's always going to be based on what we think is the healthiest for the long term. Because right now, you want to at least have a stable core. You want to at least have a stable foundation, because if the foundation is fucked now, it's so hard to repair that. Like we saw with so many teams in Valorant and CS where it's just fucked from the start and it just never repairs, right? It's so hard to fix it. So it's something we think about a lot.
Awesome.
I am now a much larger fan. We talked about it early on the show of like trusting the process and like short lifespans in esports. And it sucks. I hate seeing that. I think 100 Thieves is one of those teams that will trust the process. And it sounds like Vitality, with you kind of at the helm, will also do that same thing for the Valorant team. So a huge fan, and I'll be paying close attention, obviously. I want to ask, in this trusting the process, and this might be for maybe aspiring coaches or other coaches who are watching and maybe just want to get your insight on it. What how do you deal with setbacks, right? Because you don't want to just make roster changes, right? You don't want to just start kicking people off, bringing people in, because then you could meet the same thing. You got to get people to mesh once more. So, what is something that you do in way of, you go into week 1, you lose. You go into week 2, you lose, and you're thinking, okay, what are some of those? I don't want to keep saying the word protocols, but what is something that you fall back on as a coach to kind of deal with some of the setbacks?
I have my own little system, my own little ritual, where basically whenever I lose a game, I'm always really upset and really sad and really emo almost after the game.
Rightfully so.
Because I'm so invested in all this, right? And
Mhm.
I care about it all so much. So I'm always really emo and really upset and really angry after the game. And I always start blaming myself and blaming, oh, I fucked up here. I should have done this in anti-stratting. We should have played this comp. We should have picked this map, whatever, right? And that takes a few hours, maybe a day, chill out a little bit, and then the next day, after that kind of self-pity has gone, I start thinking, okay, what actually went wrong? What actually was the issue? Was it actually a player? Was it, can we fix it like this? Was it that we did this default too much? Was it that, this comp was bad? Was it that we just had a bad day? And sometimes I think a lot of people forget, especially with Valorant, this is very prevalent, which is
Yes.
sometimes you just have a bad day.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can have the best structure in the world, the best comp in the world, the best tactics, everything, and then CNET is going to show up and drop 50 on you, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? Literally nothing you can do about it. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to take everything with especially after losing, you got to be a little bit chill and kind of just be an emo for a bit, go into your corner, and then come out, for me at least.
Mm-hmm.
And then after, start realizing, okay, what was actually the issue? What was it actually?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, it's not a player being removed. Maybe sometimes it is, who knows? But most of the time, it's not that. Most of the time, it is just, yeah, you fucked up on something. You didn't do this correctly. We didn't,
Right.
they did this. I remember, like with OG, for example, on Bind, when we played against M3C, right? I thought that game was a lot, like, maybe the score wasn't that close, but it was quite a close best of 3 in my opinion. Like, it was, I think it could have gone so many ways.
In the
It could have been
situations,
2-1
yeah.
to us. It could have been 2-0 to them. It could have been 2-0 to us. There were so many different things. And I think on Bind, for example, right, we didn't play bad on Bind. We had a really good defense, but they did this one thing on attack where they pushed second round and they pushed third round. And for the rest of the attack half, we just kind of stopped and we didn't realize, we didn't know what to do because we felt so claustrophobic basically on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And that, when that happens, for example, that's just they did something really good and we didn't react correctly. You can't then go and say, okay, it was this player's fault, it was this thing's fault. It was just he did this thing and we didn't react, right? So I think that's a very good example of, it's not always something. It's just sometimes, you fucked up.
Yeah.
That's it. Move on. I think that was something Notel taught me as well. OG, like, just sometimes it's shit. Sometimes you're gonna have a bad game. Sometimes you're gonna lose. Just move on.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Honestly.
Those words.
It brings me on to a question actually that falls along those lines. You tell me if even my question's a little bit off here, Salah, because if we look at like a CSGO era, right, and I'm looking at NIP that won like 180 maps or 82 maps in a row, and then I'm looking at the Astralis 87, sorry, and then I'm looking at Astralis that had like the Astralis era. Naturally, everybody's trying to look for suddenly in 2020, 2021, like, was it going to be the Mick era? Was it going to be a Sentinels era? What happens? Like, what is the major cause into why we currently don't see an era of a certain team right now in this game? Is it because of an off day, or is it because the meta changes so often with so many different little minute changes in the maps and in the agents?
I think the closest thing we're going to get to errors is the way FPX were for 2 years, where they were consistently fourth, consistently third, consistently top 4, and Guild as well. Guild were always, for 2 years, consistently fourth, consistently third, never won anything, but very close there, always. I think that's the closest thing we're going to get to an era. Yeah, I think that's the closest thing we're going to get to eras, because I think the game isn't built like that. The game, you can be, for example, this team with an amazing jet operator, with an amazing chamber operator, and then Riot decide, fuck that agent, and it's just gone. It's it's
true.
Your entire the core of your firepower is gone. So it's, and then you have to adapt, and it takes 2 months for that guy to learn a new agent or a new role. He's been playing chamber on 70 maps, So I think it's very hard to have an era. It's very hard to be number one and consistently win tournaments. Maybe it's going to happen. I'm not sure, but I think it's the game is not designed like that. The way the meta changes, the way things change, the way the game even runs, I think it's very, very hard to just consistently be number one.
Okay,
awesome.
let me put it this way. Let me put it this way before we get there. Can you tell me the idea? It's a very typical question, but you yourself said you want to build that era. Can you give me, like, very briefly, just to have an idea, what are those pillars that you need right now to say I can build an era with Vitality? What is like those 3, 4, 5 things that you need to build on to say, okay, I can build an era right now with Vitality?
Yeah, I do just want to, before I start talking about this, I want to say the Astralis reference I think was a pipe dream and it was never true. I think, rather it was never possible. I think I was a younger coach and I didn't realize, okay, this is not possible. I think people sometimes, me as well at the start of my coaching career, I thought, wow, Astralis, I want to be them. I'm aspiring to be them, and I think it's a bit too much, if that makes sense. I'm not even sure if they think like that, if Astralis think like that, right? I mean, you see Device going and saying, yeah, it wasn't that good, and Astralis, you see these. It's not as sparkly as everyone makes it out to be. I think it was just a very good team who figured out certain things before everyone else, and they, and it's not just replicatable in like I want to be Astralis so you can do it. I don't think it's one of those things. Like, or you shouldn't aspire to be like them. For me, with Vitality, to build an era, I mean, of course, again, win every tournament, right? But the pillars of that, I want to at least be consistent in every single tournament. I want to always be the scary team, the team that no one wants to play against. I want to be that team where at every tournament, everyone is saying, okay, we have this team of Vitality who could win. I want to be, for me, like, that is at least the pillars of that, to go towards something like that, possibly, if it's possible. I want to be those guys who are slowly getting more consistent. Our worst day is better than a lot of teams' best day. I want to be that team. I think that was what I took away from the Astralis thing, is their worst day seemed to be better than most teams' best day, right? Because they just had these qualities about them that made sure they never dipped below a level, and that's what I would want as well. Our worst day are everyone's not feeling it, no one's feeling it, everyone had a bit too much to drink last night. Okay, we can still grind out 13 rounds. Yeah. So I think for me the pillars are that consistency, and then a little bit of fear. I want everyone to fear us.
Hell yeah. So I got a question about like in building this roster, we're seeing Riot say, hey, you have to have a 6th man. We've seen 2 kind of takes so far-ish on it, where we have like the Cloud9 take, Cupert, 6th man, and Analyst. Like Analyst that can play if needed. And then we have like the Sentinels take, where they just slot Sick, and he's, a flex player that can be the 6th man. What are your thoughts on the role that the 6th player or 6th man is supposed to be filling?
I guess it depends on what you need as a team, right? I think it's just going to change based on what the org wants or what the team wants. Maybe there's a team, with a very good IGL or a very good, someone who wants to try something new and say, okay, we're going to actually try having 6 players on a team. Will it work? I don't know. But maybe someone's going to be brave enough to try that. We went a different route. I think I like the route we went. We scouted out this really, really good English player. He used to play for Ducks Gaming and other teams. He's really, really talented English player. I think eventually you'll find out he's really, really good. This English guy.
Who did he play for?
Ducks Gaming, I think, at one point.
Ducks. DUCKS.
Yeah, Ducks Gaming. I think he had some other teams as well. Revolutionary IGL. This guy. I think he was really, really good. So eventually you'll see him.
Ducks Gaming. That doesn't exist.
It does. Eventually you'll see. He's
Big man,
really,
you're lying.
really good.
Whatever. You know what? Enough of the serious thing. We're getting into a topic that is totally different, because we're doing rapid fire with you, Salah. This works very easily. Tanner, Vansilli, and myself get all 3 questions, and your idea is to reply with 1 word, 2 at max, right? So I'll give it first to Tanner. He has 3 for you. Then Vansilli has 3 for you, and then I start. So Tanner, I would say go on with your first. Let's start that rapid fire thing.
Okay, so rapid fire here. Mine are always going to be silly, because again, I'm an idiot. First is relatively Valorant related. Phantom or Vandal?
Phantom.
Okay. Which Valorant org has the best merch?
Vitality.
Okay. I knew that was coming. And then, is a hot dog a sandwich? Yes or no?
I don't know. That's haram. I've never eaten a hot dog. But,
okay. Very well.
Tanner, what is that question?
I told you, I'm an idiot, man.
All right, I'll go with me. This one is probably going to need a little bit more words, because it's about buffs. So they announced Cypher Buffs. What is the Cypher buff you want to see the most?
I said it in chat. I think they should make him untradeable. I think that's the way we should go.
He goes.
They should give him an untradeable mechanic, like Chamber or Jay. Like he should have something that makes him untradeable.
You mean he cannot be replaced?
No, as in like he can just get a kill, get out, and then you can't trade him. No, a zero trade mechanic like Chamber and Jet. You know,
bro, that's hilarious because I actually tweeted out that he should TP through his cyber cages.
But yeah, I think on a serious note, I think he needs stopping power.
Yeah.
I think if you look at even Harbor has more stopping power than Cypher does realistically. The tripwires don't really do much apart from info. So I think he does need some form of stopping power, whether that's just giving him the cages slows again. Not as bad as it was back then, but maybe it's not that big of a different deal now that everyone's actually learned the game. I think back then when they had to nerf that, no one really understood the game. So maybe now you could do the same thing and it wouldn't be as bad and it wouldn't be as egregious. But giving him some level of stopping power, like even to the form Killjoy has 2 mollies that will literally just shut down a push. He doesn't have anything close. Astra has the same thing. Harbor has the same thing. Viper has it. Everyone that you would play instead of him has better stopping power. Is better on defense. He's good on attack. He's not bad at all on attack. But then he also does suffer from the fact that there is a character that is untradeable at all times in his role. And that character also does allow you to play. You can have Chamber. And just because you have this Chamber, you don't have to play Jet. So now it opens up more opportunities to play different comps, which I actually quite enjoy. But it's there's something that's so much better than him, and he's again undertuned. So it's just it's hard for me to say. But I think give him some kind of stopping power.
Yeah,
quickly,
hopefully we'll see.
Before you go on, Vansilli, before you go on, I just quickly want to explain to you that rapid fire means that it's a brief question with like 1 or 2 word answers. I appreciate the answer, Salah.
We wanted that answer though. We wanted that. I told him. I preface this says this might be a longer answer because it's an open-ended 1-word question.
I understand. This is not how rapid fire works. You can ask it at a normal time, but rapid fire is about to be compact.
Yeah.
You have a second one that is more compact.
Yeah. And then here's my rapid way to tell you, shut up, Zescht. Let me fucking continue.
Hey, fuck off, go on.
What country do you want to see champions being played in?
Good one.
Ooh. Tokyo.
Everybody wants Japan. The same here.
Actually, sick. That's a good answer.
And then, based off your experience as well, favorite team to have coached before Vitality?
Before Vitality, OG.
Nice.
Good one.
See, those two are better. Zescht.
No, excellent. Yeah. Hey, listen, they were really good. Easiest one to ask. First one, best player in his prime time.
Ooh. Oh, it has to be CNED, man.
I thought you would say that. 100% thought you would say that.
CNED to Vitality? Sorry, that was my rapid question. That was my rapid question there.
Further on, Harbor useful or not?
Meh. I'm not sure. For PRX, yes. For others, maybe not.
Okay, and finally, if you could right now buff one agent, any agent, which one would it be?
Phoenix.
Buff him.
Yeah.
Another.
Yeah.
Why would you buff Phoenix?
Give him like a 5th ability. I don't fucking know. Like something.
Buff him again?
Yeah.
What for? What?
You said it's quickfire. So but I think I don't know. I think he's a really fun agent. I really like the way he kind of sounds like me as well. So I like that about him.
Okay.
But I think he could be really fun in theory, but I think they need to change his wall. I think that wall is useless.
Yeah.
I think they need to give him something in maybe some movement, to be honest with you, because if you look at Raze, Jet, even Yoru, even
All
Neon,
move, yeah.
even I forgot any other duels. Reina, even to a level with Dismiss, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think if you gave him some kind of escapability, some kind of going in, he could be really, really good.
Hey, hold on. I'm gonna. Can I
Go ahead.
pose this this Phoenix buff? Okay. Phoenix ult is now his E. It only takes 1 shot to kill it though, like a haunt or like a dart, and he can run it back as like his. And then they give him a different ult.
So his signature would be he'd be able to run it back.
So his signature would be able to run it back. So he could like just enter a site and he either just gets 1-tapped or, maybe pops off and kills somebody that doesn't see him because he'll still have his flashes and stuff. But it's 1 shot anywhere, leg, chest, body to send him back.
Okay.
I think it would be really good. And if you got a good ultimate, it would be really good. But the problem with that would be it would be like the default would become, okay, we need to shoot the Phoenix E. And then the meta would become, okay, who's going to save the Phoenix E for the right moment? Who's, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah,
it's just going to become, it would become repetitive. But I think it could be good.
One more, Sal. You say you sound like Phoenix. this is actually your time to do a Phoenix impression.
I literally was gonna. That was what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Can you do? Okay,
Hey,
so
listen,
I'm
you
not
say you
good.
can do it. Come on.
I'm not good with my tongue for this portion. I'm doing it with other things, but like the you know when he does that kind of stuff. Can you do that one?
Oh no, I couldn't do that. I don't think my tongue works that way.
I just wanted him to say a voice line. I just wanted to.
That's a
I
voice
didn't want
line.
to say. "Skra-" I didn't want him to do that. I wanted him to say just a normal ass voice line, dude. But let me guess. You don't have anyone available right now.
If someone, I don't know any of his
I'm
voice
gonna
lines.
listen. I'm gonna look up
Bro,
production. Look up right now.
I have
Phoenix
it
voice
open
lines.
right now. So like, just...
Send it to Ian right now. Right now.
Okay. I'm putting it
Right fucking now.
Valorant
Quickly, there's no time. Okay. No, click it. Click the link. Please, I beg you. It's a safe page. We tried. I wish we could have had that. You know what? There we go.
There you go.
Advertisements. Hold on. There you go. Okay, you can choose one. Choose one. You say stop. You can.
Dude,
say stop.
just do that one. Just listen to the run it back from your opponents.
I can do the yo.
Yeah, up.
Or let's make this quick. I can do as well.
Go ahead. Can we hear it? No, we cannot hear it, right? No, we're gonna leave it. Go. Give me that. Give me that, Salah. Give me that, Salah.
Yo, you can do that too?
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
you're hired. So I mean, listen, if it doesn't work out, you can just be a fucking Phoenix imposter, you know? It doesn't even matter. Okay, you know what? I think this is the perfect way to end the show. Thank you very much for coming over. It was a big pleasure as always to talk to you. I hope I'm going to see you next year. I hope we're all going to see you next year. I hope you're going to stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good time in Berlin very soon.
Likewise. Have a nice time, guys.
Adieu. See you next time. Man.
Pleasure being here.
Appreciate you, brother.
A pleasure. Really good. I mean, honestly, I
fun.
always wanted to.
Great interview.
I always wanted to talk to Phoenix, man. Always wanted to talk to Phoenix.
Always wanted.
Finally got into
If
it.
Ryan ever needs a sixth man for Phoenix, they could call him.
Right. I think, you know, particularly as they shouldn't probably get sick. They should have gone Salah.
Yeah.
See? Easy as that. Gentlemen, the evening is coming to an end, and I obviously want to hear your final thoughts about today. Give me your thoughts, starting with you, Vansilli. What is the most important thing you learned today? What is the thing that you thought, besides eating spaghetti for breakfast is not an option, which is fucking disgusting, and every fucking Italian would hate you?
Guys, what the fuck is wrong for spaghetti for breakfast?
No.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Man,
What about those people?
just can't,
okay,
man.
all right, you tell me. You had like a good little night of drinking, whatever, and then you're waking up the next day and you're tired as fuck, you're hungover, and then you open the fridge or you look on the counter, whatever is there, and you see like a leftover pizza. You're gonna eat that for breakfast. See? 14 reasons to eat more pasta. Buon appetito.
Wait, hold on. Where's
part of a good
breakfast?
diet.
Can we control F and look up breakfast? Because it's not in there.
I'm gonna eat that.
fucking
I've done my meal. I'm finishing my coffee. I'm having a workout. I got my cars for my workout. Everything's a fucking bueno for me right now, dude. Mucho bueno.
Everything's
bueno.
fucking
Mucho bueno.
Because mucho is fucking Italian, right? Because mucho is fucking Italian.
Close enough.
Hey,
Macho,
you know,
macho bueno.
Molto bene, grazie mille Vansilli. Ma perché parliamo italiano, eh? So,
no.
back from that point, exactly, that's what I thought. From that point on, I hope... What?
See?
Oh, fuck off. I hate our production,
See?
so I'm never going to come back here again. I swear to God. The matter of fact-
SheKnows.com? That's not a reliable source. Go back to WebMD.
And the best thing is,
Never heard of SheKnows.com.
Listen to me. The thing is that it said, is it okay to eat pasta for breakfast? Makes it clear that there's a moral dilemma to eat
morally.
that. Listen. Okay, what did you learn this morning, Tanner? What did you learn with this great podcast?
Now you
we
can
had
have spaghetti for breakfast.
I did learn that. Unfortunately, I did learn that. I wish I could take that away. No, I thought this was a great show. I like talking about... Cypher is an agent that I think needs a lot of love, so it's cool to kind of brainstorm and think of... Obviously, what we say is going to be absolutely nothing, and they're going to do something completely different, and the buff probably won't feel like a buff, but I'm glad that we brought light to that, and hopefully we can see some changes. Some good changes very soon.
All right. You know what, gentlemen? This has been a wonderful evening. Or day, depends on which time zone you are. this has been nothing else than the beauty of Valoranting, which means that we're about to sign off. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for Twitch for making this possible. Thank you, Tanner. Thank you, Vansilli. Thank you, the entire production that is listening to us and hopefully think that this is over any second soon because they don't want to listen to us anymore. So till then, see you next Tuesday for another
I'm back
bit.
next Tuesday.
Another bit of Valorant.